Hey brother! Jay, do you know what makes for a great children's movie? The death of a parent. Disney parents are always so dead, and if they aren't already, they will be soon. Man, this got dark quick. Today we discuss why. I mean, we've got Snow White, Bambi, Aladdin, Anna, Elsa, Tarzan, Simba loses Mufasa, Ariel doesn't have a mother, Mowgli's parents are missing in action, Bella's missing a mother, Tiana's missing a father, Kuzco's missing both, Rapunzel has both of her parents, but she was taken from them, and if she wasn't, they'd most likely be dead. I'm actually surprised they weren't struck by a meteor upon reuniting. Point is, Disney loves killing off parents, which is super weird for a company that is like known for happiness and making dreams come true. What's the deal, Disney? Why can't people just have their parents? Well, one of the longest standing rumors is that Walt Disney himself made the conscious decision to kill off parental roles after the guilt he felt about his own mother's death. See, after the enormous success of Snow White at the box office, seriously, adjusted for inflation, Snow White makes Frozen look pitiful. Ha, Frozen, only making $1.2 billion, what a failure. Honestly, they should just cancel Frozen 2 right now and start up with Snow White and the 8 Dwarfs instead. Where the 8th dwarf is, wait for it, Olaf. Because I love Olaf.
Oh, look at that. I've been impaled.
Anyway, point is, with the money earned from Snow White, Walt and his brother Roy decided to move their parents from their modest home in Oregon to a mansion in LA. What great sons, right? But then tragically, there was a carbon monoxide leak in the new house, and their mother, Flora Disney, died of carbon monoxide poisoning. So as the story goes, this is the reason why Disney movies are just so parentless, because Walt was reflecting his own grief and guilt into his artwork, which makes for a good story and a really interesting reason behind this kind of bizarre phenomenon, but it's actually not true. Snow White, when it came out, was already parentless a year before Flora's death in 1938. And at that time, other parentless films, including Bambi and Pinocchio, were already well underway in production. In fact, if you thought Bambi was sad, it was based on a book called Bambi, A Life in the Woods, which was considered too grim and somber for a Disney movie, so they dialed it back to make it more lighthearted. Because that's how you describe Bambi, right? Lighthearted? I can just imagine that production meeting. Guys, more lighthearted. How do we make this a happier movie? Mom lives? Lives? Franklin, you're fired. We said lighthearted, not change the entire company philosophy. Now who said something about a skunk named Flower? Good thinking, not Franklin. But the point is, yes, Disney obviously dealt very heavily with the grief of his mother's death, but that wasn't the inspiration behind telling sad stories. But so if that's not the reason, then what is it? Well, one thing to keep in mind is that as great as Disney films are, they aren't entirely original. Most of them are at the very least loosely based on an existing fairy tale. And in many of those fairy tales, the parents were already dead or not present. So this storytelling technique has kind of been around for a very long time. Even outside of Disney, orphans or single-parent children are pretty easy to come by. I mean, just look at Harry Potter, Dorothy, Katniss, Luke Skywalker, Aang, Frodo, Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, and well, you know what? Just go Google fictional orphans. The list goes on. That's because these types of stories are called a Bildungsroman, or coming-of-age tale. By the way, that's Bildungsroman. It's one word that sounds way better with a German accent, which I don't have, but more importantly is not Bildungsroman's kind of story. Dung. What a funny last name. Interestingly, even the term Bildungsroman came out well after these stories were highly popular. It's just the first term that was coined to describe this kind of story. So once again, we come back to our original question. Why are Disney parents, or really any parents in stories, always so dead? Because perfect isn't interesting. The story about the perfect little family where the kids come home from school and do their homework before cleaning their room and then squeeze in 30 minutes of video games before dinner, isn't interesting, especially if the kids take their plates to the sink after asking to be excused from the table. But the movie about the kid who works after school to help support a single mother and then goes home and stays up late eating a dinner they cooked for themselves while working on a state-of-the-art robotics project for the science fair is interesting because we are watching our hero make a decision. We are watching them make the right decision, despite having a perfectly acceptable excuse not to. And we all want to be that person, or at some point in our lives have wanted to be that person. Well, that person, maybe not their situation. Though I will say, if I was given the opportunity to save all of China from the Huns by taking my father's position in the army after he was unfairly drafted at an old age, I totally would have. Some people just get all the opportunities. It's not my fault my parents raised me in a loving household during peacetime. Just kidding. Love you, Mom and Dad. But my point is, these stories allow you to live vicariously through a precarious situation. They let you believe that if you were ever in a place where you had to make such a decision that could change your life and the lives of the people around you, then you would. And they are particularly effective with dead parents because it forces children, who are usually the target audience for these kind of stories, to come of age sooner than they would otherwise, and to do so without the guidance of a parent. So there you go, guys. That is why Disney is just so parentless. But for my question of the day, which Disney character did you relate to the most? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the towel section down below. Also, guys, want to remind you that next week on April 19th at 9 p.m. we will be hosting a live stream on YouTube. If you would like to figure out how you can tune in, be sure to check us out on Patreon. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to see some more Disney history from us, you can click right here to find out the mouse that actually saved Disney, or right here to find out how Star Wars became such an empire. But Jay, that is everything that I've got for you today, man. I will see you on Tuesday.